For the subject of this morning's sermon, I want to focus on verses 14 and 15. One word that is echoed in both verses. Verse 14, it says, "Take what belongs to you, go." And in verse 15, "Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me?" And I want to talk for a moment this morning, investigate this concept of belonging. What does it mean to belong? My brothers and sisters, there are two types of belonging. I want to press the case this morning that there are two types of belonging that we commonly think about. The first is a relational type of belonging. The connection that we have one to another. It is a part of what Maslow listed in his hierarchy of needs. He said that there are basically 5 types of human needs. The first, the most basic, is our physiological needs. That's our need for food, for water, for air. It is the things that our body needs in order to survive. Without those, our body will break down. When we sing, "You woke me up this morning, started me on my way, put food on my table," that is the physiological needs that we talk about. Those are the things that we need in order to fuel our body, in order to support the functioning of our mind so that we can make it day in and day out. Maslow said, though, physiological needs are not the only thing that we need, but that we also need a sense of safety. We need to know, be assured that we are relatively safe. We need shelter to keep us safe from the storms. Not just the metaphorical storms that we speak about, but the actual storms. Right now, my brothers and sisters, we have been in prayer for those who are on the East Coast who are being battered by hurricanes. In times like that, when it is raining, when there is hail, when there are other natural disasters, you want to know that you have a place that is going to be safe. A place that will stand around you, a place that will keep the weather on the outside, keep you safe on the inside, my brothers and sisters. It is for this reason that homelessness is such a pressing concern for us, because our brothers and sisters who are living in homeless conditions day in and day out, who are living without steady places of shelter to sleep. When the weather gets bad, my brothers and sisters, that their ability to weather that, to stand, to survive in that is seriously compromised because they don't have adequate shelter. And so we need physiological needs, our basic physiological needs, our food. We need a sense of safety. But then after that, the next thing Maslow said is that we need a sense of love and belonging. That we need to know, to have the emotional connection, to know that there's somebody out there that loves us and cares about us. My brothers and sisters, and I would argue that that this is the place where the church ought to excel. Not to say that we should not be involved in helping people meet their physiological needs. Certainly we should. We should do what we can to make sure that people are not going without food, without their basic needs. We ought to be doing our best to make sure that people have their safety needs met. It's part of the reason why, as a church, we have invested our money to help support the Greater Cincinnati Homeless Coalition, to help make that need a reality for more people in our city, in our nation, my brothers and sisters. But the church ought to excel in this area of love and belonging. This ought to be the place where on our report card, we ought to be getting A's all across the board on the place of love and belonging, because it ought to be, my brothers and sisters, that if there is no other place where we know that we are loved, if there is no other place that we know we are accepted, if there's no other place that we can go to and be ourselves, my brothers and sisters, it ought to be the church. And particularly ought to be the black church, my brothers and sisters, that in this world that constantly seeks to challenge and to denigrate black identity, in the black church, we ought to be able to come and celebrate who we are and celebrate whose we are and know that God loves us because we receive the love of our brothers and sisters every Sunday. My brothers and sisters, that is why we take time as a part of our worship regularly to fellowship with one another. That's why we take time to give hugs and handshakes and high fives. That's why we take time to get to know one another, to spend time with one another in prayer. That's why at the end of every service, I ask to look at your neighbor and look at your neighbor in the eye. Look at them like they matter to you. If you don't know your neighbor, ask your neighbor's name, because we ought to be a place where people feel like they belong. Brothers and sisters, there ought to really be no strangers in God's house, my brothers and sisters. It may be your first time, it may be the first time you've been in a while, but no matter who you are, you ought to walk in and feel like you belong here. You ought to feel like you belong to us, because the truth is, our faith claim is, the very foundation of our belief is that we all belong to God. My brothers and sisters, won't you do me a favor and turn to your neighbor, gently touch your neighbor and tell your neighbor, you belong to God.
You belong to God.
Now, I don't know that your neighbor believes you the way you said it, so won't you get your best Sunday morning voice on and say, neighbor, you belong to God.
You belong to God.
That's the truth, my brothers and sisters, that no matter who you are, no matter where you've come from, no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, as Paul said in Romans, there is nothing that can separate you from the love of God. There is no height, there is no depth, there is no length, there is no width, there is no angel, there is no demon, there is no creature in heaven or hell, no person, no law, no statute, no ordinance, nothing can separate you from the love of God, my brothers and sisters. You belong to God. And because you belong to God, that means you belong to us. You belong to God's people. You belong to God's family.
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
My brothers and sisters, I remember when some of my cousins would come up, my cousins and my nephews would come up from the South. They lived in Mississippi and Louisiana, and they would come up every once in a while and spend a little time with me, and we would be out playing, and inevitably somebody from my street would have something to say about the way they talked or the way they dressed, because they were from around here. And I would have to say, hey, watch what you say about my family. And they would say, but Nelson, we hang out all the time. Nelson, you are one of us. Nelson, we spend time together all the time. And I have to say, yes, that's true, but these are my family. They belong to me. And so if you say anything against them, then you're talking about me too, that I can't distance myself from them no matter how much time we spend around each other. Just know these are my family. My brothers and sisters, and that is what it ought to be with us as the people of God, that we ought to see one another, claim one another as family, as part of the body of Christ, my brothers and sisters, which is what I tell every politician I talk to, every elected official, every candidate who is seeking votes. I don't care how much we talk. I don't care how friendly you think we are. I don't care how close you think we are. Know that these are my family. And if you pass a law, if you propose legislation, if you run on a campaign, you because I'm going to protect my family. My brothers and sisters, that is what belonging is. It is a sense of deep relationship, that we are connected in ways. Belonging doesn't have to necessarily be by blood ties. It doesn't necessarily have to be people who are related to me by blood, but people belong to me because my love says they belong to me. My brothers and sisters, belonging doesn't have to do with time, that we can just meet and you still belong to me as much as somebody that I've known for a lifetime. Belonging is not bound by these other sets of rules, my brothers and sisters. It creates its own rules. But once you belong to me, know that you always belong to me. My brothers and sisters, this is what love and belonging is all about. This is one way of looking at it. The concept of belonging in this text appears another way, my brothers and sisters, because they don't see belonging as relational. This text, the landowner in this text sees belonging as ownership. Take what belongs to you, he says, and leave my vineyard, for who are you to tell me what to do with what belongs to me? Belonging as a sense of ownership, my brothers and sisters. The concept of ownership is a fundamental principle of capitalism, my brothers and sisters. The idea that we own something, and that once we own it, that nobody can tell us what to do with what we own. It is the concept of my house is something I own. My car is something I own. And therefore, you cannot tell me what to do with my house, at my house, on my property, because I own it. My car is my property, so you can't tell me what to do with my car because it is my property. It is, I own it, and I can do with it what I will. My brothers and sisters, I had an early conflict with my parents on the concept of ownership. Because as a kid, I did not own much, but I believed I owned my toys. Because after all, they were given to me. Some of them even had my name on them. And so then I felt like I ought to be able to do whatever I wanted with my toys because they belonged to me. I had ownership over them. And so I had a habit of leaving my toys in random places. And my parents would say, Nelson, you need to pick up your toys. And I would say, why do I need to pick up my toys? Because I own them. I ought to be able to leave them where I want to, as long as they're not in your way. And my parents would say, you think you own them. But let 5 o'clock come and your toys still be out. And I will take everything that you think you own. Amen. We had a disagreement, my brothers and sisters, on this concept of ownership. This disagreement isn't just a disagreement between me and my parents. It's a disagreement between people in banks all the time. People have been paying on their houses for years. Miss a payment or two, and now the bank is threatening to take your house. The house that you think you own. Mess around and miss a payment or two on your car and see if somebody doesn't call you asking you when you're going to pay before they come and take your car. The car that you think you own. Brothers and sisters, ownership is a funny thing in capitalism, my brothers and sisters, because the concept says I ought to be able to do what I want, but most of our ownership really isn't real ownership. It's fraudulent ownership. The bank owns it until we're able to pay it off. We just get the illusion of ownership until we pay off. And that illusion of ownership is important in reinforcing the system, because with that illusion comes a buying into a system that is not designed to work for us. Capitalism, my brothers and sisters, was never designed to work on our behalf. It was never designed to work to benefit us. In fact, capitalism was literally built on the backs backs of our foremothers and forefathers. It was built on the backs of our ancestors. It was designed to privilege, to make richer an elite few on the backs of many, my brothers and sisters. It is why in this day and time, a day when this nation has more money than it has ever had in the history of the world, when it has more money than any nation has ever had in the history of the world, when we have the richest people that the world has ever seen, that there are still so many people who are living paycheck to paycheck, so many people who are a paycheck or two away from poverty, so many people who are working every day and without the minimal government help that they get would be in poverty. There are so many people who are working every day, and even with government help, they are still in poverty. There are so many people, my brothers and sisters, who are outside of the economy, who are just stuck living in poverty. There are so many people who are struggling in the richest economy of the world because capitalism is not designed to make everybody better. It is designed to make a few extremely wealthy. Amen. And everybody else struggles. This concept of ownership, my brothers and sisters, it's a dangerous concept. Because when we get it in our minds that I can do whatever I want with what belongs to me, my brothers and sisters, then the first question is, where do we draw the line on what ownership is? How do we define it? How do we look at what ownership is? When you look at this text, my brothers and sisters, the argument that this man makes may seem to be a reasonable argument, particularly in the constraints of capitalism. It's my money, this is my vineyard, I should be able to do what I want to as it relates to who I hire and how much I pay you, especially once you agree to it with my money in my vineyard. It makes sense from the concept of capitalism, my brothers and sisters, until we dig just one layer down deeper and we understand that in order to be able to amass the amount of land that it takes to build a vineyard in the urban core, my brothers and sisters, the only way to be able to do that was to cause other people to go into bankruptcy, to take their land from them, to displace others from land property that belonged to them, my brothers and sisters. You had to gentrify a neighborhood in order to make this happen. And so that the land that you claim is yours is really land that you displaced others from. My brothers and sisters, and America has been built on gentrification. It has been built on removal of people from land, my brothers and sisters. It is part of what makes the economic engine move today, but our core is built on it, that this land that we are currently on once was inhabited by Native Americans, my brothers and sisters, of different tribes who roamed this land freely, and when European settlers, colonizers came in, my brothers and sisters, they took people and forcibly removed them from land that they had been living on for hundreds of years. This country was built on displacement. And then once people were displaced, then the colonizers who came in claimed ownership. They forced people who were living here to move and then said, I now own this. And so property lines, property laws were all created, my brothers and sisters, as a way to codify somebody's thievery. It is as if I were to come and take all the money out of all of your pockets and all of your wallets right now, put that money in my own pocket, and then write a law that says that money that is in your pockets belongs to the person whose pockets it's in and can't be used for any other purposes except for what the person designated. And then said, I own this money and now I can do with it what I want. You all would have a difference of opinion. Amen. No matter what the law would say, you all would remind me the only reason you got that is because you took that from me. And even though it might not have been illegal, it was certainly immoral. And so you better not think that you can do whatever you want to with our money. My brothers and sisters, the landowner claiming to be able to do what he wants to with what belongs to him is ignoring the reality of how he got the land in the first place. And anytime we uncritically subscribe to the principle of ownership, anytime that we, without challenge, allow people to do, quote unquote, what they want to with what belongs to them, anytime corporations or major nonprofits come into our neighborhoods and we don't challenge them on their hiring practices, my brothers and sisters, we don't challenge them with how they use their money because they say they're a private business and they can do what they want to with what belongs to them, my brothers and sisters. We ought to remind them that private or not, that they did not get their money without taking it from some public place. GE would not be headquartered downtown if it did not receive public tax dollars in order to finance their relocation downtown. These hospitals would not be there if they did not receive public money for the land that they built the hospitals on. The development in Bond Hill, all of the health work that's developing in Bond Hill got there because they received tax abatements. They were allowed to forfeit their part of the public money that they ought to pay, forcing us to bear a greater responsibility for our infrastructure, my brothers and sisters, that it was all benefited on, it was all predicated on public money. And because of that, my brothers and sisters, that even their claim to own their property, to own their finances, is a tenuous claim at best. It might be legal, but that don't make it moral.
Right.
It might be legal, but that don't make it right. My brothers and sisters, this man is pressing a legal claim. I can do what I want to with what belongs to me, but his claim is morally bankrupt. My brothers and sisters, and the real danger of this extends beyond just the economic transactions that we see. But the real danger of this, my brothers and sisters, is that it is a short jump from thinking I can do what I want to with property that belongs to me, to thinking that I have the ability now to own people. It's a really short jump, my brothers and sisters. And if you see the way employers are treating their employees now, you might believe that some of these employers think that they own their employees. If you see the ways that people are being forced to work hours at the detriment of their health, that people can work their entire lives and lose their benefits at the end of their careers, that companies are able to go back on promises that they've made to people. Meanwhile, the heads of corporations are able to make millions upon millions of dollars even when they fail, my brothers and sisters. You might think that these companies, these corporations, think they own their employees. My brothers and sisters, it is just a short jump from this concept of I can do what I want to with what belongs to me, so I can do what I want to with who belongs to me. My brothers and sisters, it is that is even true in issues of domestic violence. The issues of domestic violence become complicated for our legal system because our legal system is set to defend the powerful, to defend the elite. And so when people who are powerful and elite are caught in domestic abuse matters, it shields them, my brothers and sisters, because it has that same notion that the person that they are in domestic relationship with belongs to that person, and therefore we cannot get in between this relationship. And so victims go without protection, my brothers and sisters. People are taken advantage of. It is part of what is challenging about this case in Dallas, where this cop walks into an apartment that she said she thought was hers, shot the person that lived there, claimed she did not know him before she shot him, but then pictures surfaced of them hanging out, socializing together. Friends and family swore they were dating at one point in time. Neighbors said that they heard her banging on the door the night that she shot him, saying, "Let me in, let me in, let me in," my brothers and sisters. And then the police, instead of investigating their own, instead of investigating the person who pulled the trigger, who went into an apartment that did not belong to her and shot the person who lived there, the police are investigating him and are now saying that there are drugs in his apartment, my brothers and sisters. Why? Because they don't see themselves as being in relationship with the community. They see themselves as having some type of ownership over the community, and so they think that they can do whatever they want to with this man, with his reputation, with his life, without any repercussion, because they have this faulty, immoral sense of ownership. My brothers and sisters, and this is why we need a strong, healthy, moral, religious voice. This is why we need a prophetic voice that speaks from the pulpit, and from the pulpits to the pews, and from the pews to the politicians, my brothers and sisters. This is why we have to be engaged, because the Bible offers a healthy corrective on our sense of ownership. The Bible reminds us that everything we own really does not belong to us, but it ultimately belongs to God. That no matter how you trace the chain of custody, no matter how you can trace where it changed hands, that ultimately at the beginning and in the end, it ultimately belongs to God. And so you don't have then the ability to do what you want with what you think belongs to you, because at the end of the day, God holds you accountable for what you do with what belongs to God. It is why, my brothers and sisters, the Bible does not say that we are owners of God's gifts, God's blessings, but we are stewards of God's gifts or God's blessings. That we have a responsibility to cultivate it, to nurture it, to care for it, to make sure that it is available, yes, to meet our needs and to meet the needs of our brothers and sisters, to make sure that we are being careful in how we are using it for the purposes that God has designed, my brothers and sisters, that things do not belong to us, they belong to God. And if the landowner had been in somebody's church, let me correct that. If the landowner had been in somebody's black church, because the landowner might have been in somebody's white evangelical church, and they might have taught and preached the doctrine that reinforce their ability to do what they want to with whatever they have, because the white evangelical preachers want to do whatever they want to with what they have or what they think they have. So if he had been in somebody's black church, somebody's black church that was preaching from the Bible, somebody's black church that was preaching liberation, then somebody's pastor might have told this man that now you don't have the ability to say to your worker, I have the right to do what I want to with what belongs to me, because ultimately what you have belongs to God, and so you are accountable for how you treat the people who work for you. Yes. And just because society says you can take advantage of people, God does not back society. The will of God is not subject to popular vote, my brothers and sisters. The will of God is not subject to popular opinion, my brothers and sisters. The will of God is not subject to the dictates of the market. God's truth is eternal. And so God's sense of what is right and what is wrong, God's sense of what is just and what is not just, is not based on the rise and fall of the stock market, nor is it based on which political party is in office, my brothers and sisters, but it is based on the eternal principle that we are designed for liberation. That we a false claim. It is an immoral claim. Even when it's legally justifiable, it is not morally justifiable, my brothers and sisters, because everything we have belongs to God. And so because of that, we are accountable for what we do. And so yes, my brothers and sisters, this is part of why we give our offering, because our testimony in our offering is that what we have belongs to God. And so we give back to God just a portion of what God has given to us. It is why we give not just our money, but we also give our time, because we understand that every day is a blessing from God. That, as the songwriter said, morning by morning, new mercies I see, my brothers and sisters. And I don't know if you know this, but just the ability to wake up in the morning is a new mercy. The ability to get out of bed is a new mercy. The ability to be in your right mind is a new mercy. The ability to have the activity of your limbs is a new mercy. And so it's not just what I do with my money, but it's also what I do with my time, my brothers and sisters. It's also what I do with my talent, because the talent I have, God has given to me. It's been nurtured by people who God has put in my life. And so what I do with my talent is also part of my stewardship, my brothers and sisters. But this is not just a lesson for us to hold on to, but it is also a lesson that we must lift up to everyone who is in positions of power. To remind them, from City Hall all the way to the White House, that the power you think you have does not belong to you. My brothers and sisters, that power, ultimately it belongs to God. But in a democracy, it belongs to us. And if you don't know how to act like you have some sense while you're in office, then we will come and take our power back. My brothers and sisters, every once in a while, my parents would dress me up and take me out to dinner in a fancy place. Now, my parents knew I was a kid. They knew I was subject to run wild. They knew every once in a while I just needed to run and scream and let that out. But when we got to the fancy place, my parents would say, look, I know you are a child, but while you are in this place, you need to act like you have some sense. We can get into a debate later on whether or not you really have sense. But here, in this place, for these next 2 hours, you better put on your best acting job and act like you have some sense. Well, my brothers and sisters, it's high time that somebody said to our mayor, to our governor, and to the president of these United States, you better act like you have some sense. I don't know how much sense you have, and I don't know what you do in your private life, but while you are in public office, while you are a public steward of our money, of our trust, of our power, you better act like you have some sense, because if you can't act like it while you're in office, guess what? We're going to come and we're going to snatch back what belongs to the people. Belonging, my brothers and sisters, it's a principle of relationship, of stewardship. It is not a principle of ownership. And we have to continue to work, to lift up with one another and with the people who are accountable to us, that they do not own even what they think belongs to them, but they are responsible to God. They are responsible to us. We have a practice, my brothers and sisters, that we call response to the word. It's our way of acknowledging that God does not just seek to speak through me, because I'm the one up here with the microphone, but that God desires to speak to and through each and every one of us. So we take a moment and say, God, what is it that you have for me today? What in this message are you saying to me? How can I live better? How can I walk better? What can I do better based on what you were saying to me today? And once we've heard that, my brothers and sisters, we don't hold it to ourselves. We turn to a friend or a neighbor and we share with them what God is sharing with us. So if you would, just take a moment in the stillness of your heart and say, God, what is it that you are saying to me today? Once you are beginning to hear God speak to your spirit, once you turn to a friend or a neighbor and share with them what God is sharing with you right now.
The baby sick last night. So sick.
They give me my stuff.
When I left, Caitlin was just coming back. So the baby was up. Seeing my family. So, but yeah, just
Yeah, they can make me.
anyway, that's